In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and Chinese-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and Joe's back. Yay!
Hello.
It feels like so long since you and I did a podcast together.
It has been a very long time since we've done a podcast together. It's been a month easily.
Easily a month, yeah. There's been a couple of really good interviews in between, and then there's been a week where we just didn't do anything and repurposed a few old podcasts. We've been really busy.
Really busy.
Yeah. But before we get on to what we've been up to, cheers, Joe.
Cheers.
We're not drinking misery tea.
We're drinking gin.
Drinking gin.
Yeah.
Because, how is it actually? It's really tasty.
Nice.
It's bright yellow. This is a gift from Kenda. Thank you, Kenda.
Hi, Kenda.
Hi, Kenda. And it's bright yellow, very excitingly coloured, Ungava Canadian gin. We're made with rare botanicals from the Canadian North, Nordic juniper, Arctic blend, Labrador tea, crowberry, cloudberry, and wild rosehip.
It's very nice.
It is very nice, and it looks really interesting. Bring your senses out of hibernation. Oh, apparently, Ungava Bay is a vast territory in the Canadian Arctic, an unspoiled region of startling landscapes and extreme climate. Does the gin taste like that?
It does taste like startling climate.
It does taste like startling climate, and it tastes like vast spaces.
Vast spaces.
It does. It's very nice. It's an interesting colour. I haven't seen a gin that colour before. So
I'm happy with that.
yeah, cheers.
No more misery tea. Yay.
No, thank you, Kenda. So that was a gift from Kenda, who is my friend and client, and it was a gift to say thank you for all of the help that I've given her getting her book published, because it's published.
Woo!
Woo, woo, woo! So congratulations. It's so exciting getting your book published for the first time. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I've been so busy the last few weeks. Why have you been so busy?
Why have I been so busy? Oh, just work and clients and,
House.
Because,
we have literally just been upstairs in the attic at the Dingle, putting the new bedside tables up there, which just arrived today. The mattress is on the floor. We're moving.
The bed will go up at the weekend.
Bed will go up at the weekend, and then we'll have a bedroom. We'll have a room.
An actual finished room.
Well, apart from the glass and the door.
Okay, so it hasn't got a door.
And the skirting boards.
Yeah, it's close.
But yeah, that's super exciting.
And the thing that I have to keep reminding myself is just what that room looked like when we moved into the house. What that space looked like when we moved into the house. It was like, well, I mean, everyone's been in a horrible attic. Everyone's been in a horrible, dusty, cobwebby, terrifying, awful attic with sketchy floors and just...
It was like a trampoline, wasn't
unpleasant.
it? Do you remember?
The whole
it bounced.
thing, it was scary. And
it was fine for having a train set up there, which is what the man who used to live in the house had, because he never intended it to be used for a room.
But it was not good enough for a room.
No.
And now it's like proper. It's the only proper room in the house.
Yeah. So by the time this episode goes out, if you go to projectdingle.co.uk, you'll be able to see exactly what it used to look like and what we have made it into now, because I'm going to do a before and after, and this is the last bit.
Cool.
So you'll be able to have a look. Anyway, back to business.
Right, business. What are we talking about?
So we're talking about how to take the sting off criticism and feedback if you are writing, specifically if you're writing a book, but really if you're writing anything or creating anything.
Just putting yourself out there with your skills, I suppose.
Yeah, so this applies to, obviously I'm focused on people who are writing books and writers in general, but it applies to poets, it applies to painters, designers, web designers, anything
Graphic
that you make
artists.
in your business. If you're putting products and courses out there, if you're walking people's dogs, if you are a painter and decorator, if you are a musician, if you're writing music, maintaining their cars, anything that you do that's creative, which is pretty much everything. This is aimed at you, but specifically for book writers, really. Because what I'm doing at the moment is one of the scariest and most painful things that anyone can possibly do when it comes to any kind of creation. My book is... a copy on its way to us, by the way, because I'd forgotten to put our own name on the list for the review copies. My review copies of my book, 39 of them, have gone out to various very kind and generous people on my email list and in my world and in my superheroes who have said that they will read it and review it and come back with feedback for me.
Excellent.
And
those are good people.
They are good people. So they get a free limited edition copy that nobody else will ever have a copy of this, that they get input into, that, you know, they get to help me make it better. Then when I finally release the book, it will hopefully be more fabulous than it would have been without.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a process.
It's a process, and it's really scary. Next week, we're going to go into more detail about exactly why you want beta readers and, you know, how you can get the best out of them. Mm-hmm. But this week, I wanted to talk about actually taking criticism because it hurts. It's painful. Mm-hmm. Difficult to hear. So I wanted to just talk about how you can make the process a little bit less painful and really get the most out of it.
And maybe even why you should go and seek it.
Well, that's what we're going to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for stomping on that thunder.
Stomping on that thunder.
So yeah, but I'm gonna start with a question actually for everybody, for people creating anything, but specifically writing a book. Are you willing to risk half the people who reading your book will hate it?
Are you willing to risk half the people hating your book?
Yeah. Seems
like a high percentage.
It does seem like a high percentage, and it probably is high, but, you know, I'm working on maths here, and...
Your strong point.
My strong... Hey! How very dare you? I'm working on, you know, the law of averages. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. If you assume that it's going to be somewhere split 50-50, it probably won't be. Probably much more people than 50% will like your book, but let's just make it easy and assume.
You're not being very technical here with your loves and your likes. 50% can't love it and 50% hate it, and then have some other people who like it. That just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Your maths is failing. You're failing maths.
In that case, then, let me rephrase it. Saying that if you're not willing to risk half the people who read your book are going to hate it doesn't mean that half of them are. You have to be willing to risk that.
Okay.
Which means that you have to write your book in such a way that, you know, half the people might hate it. Because if you don't, nobody's going to care about it at all.
We're not aiming for people to hate it, though, are we?
No, we're not aiming for people to hate it. But what I'm saying is, if you are not willing to take the risk that a good proportion of people who read your book are going to hate it, then you are not going to write anything worth reading. Because you'll be so worried about people not hating it that you won't say anything of substance.
It'll just be floating around in the polite middle ground, saying nothing at all.
Boring people, yeah.
So, which in itself is hateful.
Well, yes. But nobody will ever know because it'll just be boring.
Yeah.
So you need to be willing to take that risk that some people are going to hate your book, because some people will.
Okay.
Some people will hate it because that is the nature of things. Dita Von Teese is a famous burlesque dancer, and she said, "You could be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there are still going to be people out there who hate peaches, and there is nothing you can do about that." So, I would like to start the podcast 8 minutes in with with that pearl of wisdom from a burlesque dancer. But yeah, we you know, once your book's out there, it's what people think of it and you is far beyond your control. But there is going to be a point where you are going to want to get feedback from people before you put it out there.
Sure.
So, how do you deal with criticism with grace and gratitude, and how do you turn it into something helpful?
Accept the fact that it's going to be terrible, some of it.
What, the book?
No, the criticism is going to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
If you expect it to be, you know, disembowelingly painful, and it turns out to just be, you know, mild niggles.
Mild stabbings.
Mild stabbings. Then you'd be like, oh, okay, I haven't been totally disemboweled here. This is okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that is a very good point, yeah. If you lower your expectations or raise your expectations or whatever, then you're not going to be disappointed.
Expect to be eviscerated.
Expect to be eviscerated and be grateful if you just get mildly stabbed. What have we been watching? American Gods. It was a bit gory. Mm. So yeah, well, my top tip, following Joe's top tip, is get in there first. Don't wait for people to come back and give you that unsolicited feedback. Ask for it.
Right.
It's a super... I tell you what, it makes a big, big difference, because unsolicited feedback is horrible, isn't it? You know when somebody just turns up and goes, well, that's a bit shit, or I wouldn't have done it like that. And you're like, well, who the hell asked you anyway?
Right.
That tends to be your natural reaction, doesn't it? Is that your reaction when people give you unsolicited feedback?
I don't get much feedback. I don't get much unsolicited feedback.
Says the man who's sitting there with his arms crossed, looking super defensive. I wonder why.
I'm cold.
Oh,
The cat left the door
why
open.
Didn't you get?
And I just showered myself in.
Oh yeah, I was like, there was a bottle of tonic that was sitting. It's been sitting there for weeks.
It's sitting in like a little wine rack in the kitchen
for weeks, and I assume that you didn't give it a good shake while I wasn't looking.
I pulled it out when we were sorting out the gin and tonic.
Opened it and it exploded.
Just exploded all over me. So now I'm sitting here,
with damp,
a little bit sticky, quite damp, and the cat left the door open.
Yeah,
and I'm cold.
Oh. Anyway, unsolicited feedback is particularly unpleasant.
Yes.
So get in there first and ask for it. I ask for feedback from my beta readers often and early because I want my book to be the best it can be.
Mm-hmm.
No good book is written alone. Plenty of bad books are written alone, I reckon. And I really think it takes a group of dedicated and caring weirdos to write a book that's worth reading. Because if you ask for feedback from the very people that you want to read your book, the type of people that you want to find your book useful and helpful,
sure,
they are going to help you make it into the best thing that you can make it. So you have got, dear listener, you have clients, customers, email subscribers, colleagues and peers and friends who are willing you to succeed.
Yes.
You know, people who care about you, they don't want to see you fail.
No.
And so bring them into your book writing adventure, you know? Bring them into it and ask them to be part of it. So, and if you've asked for the feedback, it means that when you receive it, it's not coming at you. It's not coming at you like a weapon. It's coming at you like a gift. Does that make sense?
Yeah, nice.
Is that like a nice little tweetable there?
Nice little turn of phrase. And I guess as well, you're also
Harriet. If you're listening to that, will you make that into a tweet, please?
you're also probably hi Harriet.
Hi.
I guess as well by asking the people who are in your world for the feedback, they are unlikely to come at you with the pitchforks. They might, I guess if they think it's awful, they might very gently tell you it's awful. But they're not just going to leave a terrible Amazon review and go, this is the worst bloody thing I've ever read.
And we'll come back on to how to tell somebody something's awful shortly, because the end of this podcast is about how to give good feedback or give useful feedback. So that's the first thing. The second thing to remember, the third thing to remember, because you did
the next thing to remember.
The next thing to remember is that this is not about criticising you as a person. It's about improving the thing that you have created.
The product.
Yeah. And you are not your art. You are not your book. You are not your picture. You are not your website. You are not the work you are doing. And I really think this is a good rule for life. Super important to separate yourself from your business in that sense, because
psychologically, at least.
Psychologically, yeah, because then when somebody is criticising, because we take things personally, we really do. And if somebody says this thing that you have created, that you have poured your heart and soul and blood, sweat and tears into, and says, not that good, then immediately you internalize it and think, I'm not that good. And that's not at all what the person is saying. And it's not what you should take away from it, because it's not very helpful. So really think about this criticism being not about you as a person, but about helping to make the thing that you've created better. Because I'm assuming that anybody who's creating something has a base level of ability that means that they're not going to create something totally shit.
And I guess you have to be aware of the psychology of the person who is giving you the criticism as well. You know,
and the form in which it arrives.
Yeah, you have to kind of weigh and judge criticism, don't you? You can't, if somebody just goes, well, you know what, this is balls. That's
not useful.
Not really very useful.
No.
And it's
mean.
Yeah, it's also probably coming from somebody who's got their own issues, frankly.
Yes.
Be they, jealousy or
having a bad day,
or they've just stubbed their toe or whatever. I think you have to kind of grade criticism, don't you?
You do.
And where it's coming from and how it's presented.
And we'll come back to that too.
Okay.
So, that's like Brené Brown's Post-it notes. You have your Post-it notes. I have my Post-it notes, and I need to rewrite them actually because I've lost mine. And a thing happened the other day, and I was like, oh, I need my Post-it notes, because I have my Post-it notes of my business Post-it notes and my personal Post-it note, and I put the names of people on those Post-it notes whose opinions I really value and care about, and who are people that I love. Or care very deeply about. And if one of those people says something that upsets me, I know that they've probably, that it's worth listening to and looking at. And okay, so that person has just said that. Why do I care? Is it important? All of that kind of thing. If somebody says something that upsets me and their name is not on that list, I don't care. I mean, I do care, but I can make myself then not care because
they're not on the list.
Because that person is not important enough for me to worry about. And, there'll be different people on each list as well because, much as I adore my mom.
Hi,
Mom. If she said something about my business that upset me, then frankly it doesn't matter because she's never run a business.
Yes, and she's not your customer.
And she's not my customer, and she doesn't know enough about what I do and, what I'm trying to do. So, but if she said something that upset me about me personally, then I would be like, why, what's just happened, Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's that, yes. Okay, my next top tip about dealing with criticism and helping it hurt less is, you know what? Receive it and then spend 5 minutes crying over it if you want to. Let it hurt for 5 minutes, because if it's difficult to hear, if you've asked for it and it's come back and it's like, because deep down what we all want to hear instantly is, this thing is amazing.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Not very useful. So if somebody comes back with, you know what, this thing didn't work for me and I really, really strongly disagree with this thing. And I got some feedback from somebody who I very much value the other day, the first beta feedback on my book.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much the first thing, actually not the first thing he said, because he's very good at this. The first thing he said was, it's great, I love your writing, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, I really strongly disagree with this thing that you've said. And I was like, well, fuck. And I kind of sat there and I was like, right, whatever. And I didn't hear the next couple of minutes of things that he'd said because he made me a video. And then I went back and listened and I was like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. I don't agree with me either. And so, but I needed that 5 minutes to be, okay. Because having somebody say, I really strongly disagree with what you've just said is really difficult to hear. And then it's really important to allow yourself to go, that's actually, I feel quite hurt by that and blah, blah, blah. And then listen to it again and be like, does he have a point? Yeah, actually, he was right. And the fact that he said that means that I'm really grateful, because my book, I already know how I'm going to change what I said, because what I said was not what I meant. And that's really important as well, because sometimes you think you've said something, and this is particularly with writing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think you've written something and it's like, this is what I mean, I know this is what I mean. And then somebody else reads it and they're like, they take something completely different from it.
Yeah. They've nuanced it a completely different way. They've got the emphasis somewhere else in the sentence and suddenly it means something you didn't intend.
And that's not even a sentence. What my beta reader was talking about was an entire concept. And that's not what I meant at all, but I articulated it badly, or I articulated it not as well as I could.
Articulated it wrong what?
Articulated it wronger. I need to make it better.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And actually this was a brand new chapter that I'd thrown together. I hadn't thrown it together, but I'd added the chapter after I'd done my second edit, because I felt like it needed another chapter. So this was essentially my shitty first draft of chapter 1.
Ouch.
And I wasn't quite sure what I wanted it to do and what I wanted it to say. So when I remembered that and listened to the criticism again, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I need, because I wasn't quite sure how to do what I wanted to do in this chapter. And now I know exactly what to do. So
good feedback.
Awesome feedback. All this feedback is awesome. So, and there's probably a few things that I'll say that I don't agree with, and that's fine too. I will make the decision. But yeah, so allow yourself a little bit of time to, be angry or sad or whatever, and then read it properly and objectively, or listen to it properly and objectively, and decide how to use it if you're going to use it at all. Next top tip. Remember that most of your critics really want you to succeed. They want you to do well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when my music stopped at the poll competition and how beautiful that room was?
Yeah.
Of people, not one person laughed, or everybody was just like, carry on, and then it was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, really warm room.
Really warm room. So yeah, remember, people want you to succeed. You don't have to listen to everything people say, and you don't have to agree with it all, but do listen and evaluate, because they have said it with, they've said it with love, or if not with love, with
purpose.
With purpose, and with wanting you to do well.
For me, I think working out the purpose of the criticism is important.
Yes.
Because if the purpose of the criticism is to upset you or stop you or, put you down, then that criticism is probably not going to be productive criticism.
No, it's...
If the criticism is intended to help you and support you and develop your product, whatever it may be, book or otherwise, then that's great. But I think you do have to be careful as to interpreting the purpose of the feedback.
Yes. Which actually leads us really nicely on to... Actually, first of all, I'm just going to say, if someone gives you negative unsolicited feedback, you can safely ignore that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if 100 people give you unsolicited, the same feedback that's negative, then maybe you need to have a think about that. But yeah, one random person having a bad day who's just fallen down the stairs and decided to take it out on you is not something you need to worry about.
Not worth listening to, no. But your point about the purpose of the feedback actually leads really nicely onto, I just want to spend a few minutes, I've got a few minutes left, just talking about how to critique something.
Okay. So the other side of the fence.
Yeah, because this is really useful. And also it will help people understand as well how to ask for feedback, I think. And we're going to go into that in much more detail next week. But I just wanted to, if you're lucky enough to be asked to critique somebody else's book or art or anything, remember that it is actually a really big privilege. Somebody is trusting you enough with something that they have, put time and love and care into. They're trusting you to come back and help them make it better. And that's a massive privilege, and it's a really big responsibility as well. And so if you don't feel that you can do that, then don't feel bad about saying no. I would much rather somebody had said no to me if they didn't feel like they could do it, than did it and then did it badly or didn't do it at all. So it's when you're asking for feedback from people, make it clear that they don't have to do it, and that it's actually a really, it's a really big thing.
It's a big ask.
It's a big ask. But also remember, if you are asked and you want to do it, it's a big responsibility and a privilege. It really is. So be kind. I think, be kind could be your motto for life anyway, and
yes,
you couldn't go far wrong. But yeah, good things to remember. Don't dive right in with what's shit. Start with what works well. Because we are fragile. I was going to say writers are fragile, but people generally are fairly fragile when it comes to stuff that you've made. We're quite fragile about it.
Well, it's the shit sandwich theory of feedback.
No, actually, I don't agree with that. I think shit sandwiches are a bit of a shit way to give feedback. So I don't think it's like be nice and then be mean and then be nice. I don't actually, because everybody knows what's coming. When I say start with what works well, explain what you love about it and what moves you and why it's good. So it's not just like, oh, pat on the head, this is really nice. Now we're going to go into the shit stuff. Because everybody, it's like whenever you've had a shit sandwich from a boss or something, you know that it's fake, you know what's coming, you know they've read like a little thing on how to give criticism, and it's like, so we're not talking about patting someone on the head and praising them. We're talking about constructive feedback here. And it's super important to start with what works well. Why did it work? Why did you love this particular aspect of it? What works really, really well? Because when we're doing the editing and we're doing the changing and stuff, we can incorporate more of that into it. So it's really important. It's not just about going, oh, this is lovely, and now onto the shit. It's, oh, this worked super well because. Does that make sense?
I think you're just elaborating on the bread in this shit sandwich.
No, I'm not. I'm not at all.
I think you're just using nicer, crustier, more, artisanal bread.
You can stick your artisanal bread up your bum. Anyway, basically don't just dive into what's bad. I think that's important.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean you have to finish on a high note as well.
So it's like one of those open sandwiches from the 70s.
I think you should move away from the sandwich analogy. Okay, so when you are giving somebody constructive criticism, make sure it is constructive, because just telling somebody that like their writing is clumsy or amateurish is not helpful. It's just mean. So instead of focusing on what the writer has done, instead future pace it. So look at how they can improve in the future. The reason that you get defensive, or that we get defensive when somebody tells us something that we've done is shit, is because it's something that we've already created. And by the way, even if you don't actually say that something is shit, that is how we hear it. Because we're human, right? It's like, we hear that. When somebody's giving a really detailed explanation as to why something is wrong, what we actually hear is, that's shit, you're rubbish. That's what goes on in our heads.
You are a bit of a catastrophizer though, aren't you?
I am, but I'm not the only one. Which is why it's really important to spend those 5 minutes just going, oh, well, obviously I'm shit, and then listen to it again. Because then you'll be able to once you've got that catastrophizing out of the way, you'll be able to kind of, I know you don't think that because you have goldfish, whatever. So yeah, we get really defensive. So instead of saying this is crap, couch it in, here are suggestions for how to make this better. next time you do it. And it sounds like a really picky detail, but actually it's not. It's really important. Because it's changing, this is why this is rubbish, to how about doing it like this?
Well, it's for me there, the difference is rather than a conclusion, you've got like a future process. You've got an improvement plan.
It's positive.
You've got an improvement plan rather than a just what you've done. That's the end of it. It's no good.
Yeah. And also then it's not connected to who we are and what we've done. It's connected to what we can possibly do in the future, which is, again, super important and much more useful. Also, remember when you're giving feedback, the negativity bias, we are far more likely to remember and internalize negative feedback than positive feedback.
Yes.
We're wired that way as an evolutionary trait.
No matter how artisanal the bread in the sandwich is.
Oh my God. You need to stop talking about artisanal bread. Okay, people all think we're being sponsored by like Waitrose artisanal bread or something. By the way, Waitrose, if you'd like to sponsor us, we're up for that. Yeah, so we tend to focus on the negative stuff.
Yes.
Remember that when you're giving feedback. If you can suggest where a writer can rephrase sentences and paragraphs or cut out words or use more interesting descriptives, that's much more helpful.
Shorten sentences, use punctuation.
Yeah, that's much more helpful than just saying, well, this was a bit boring.
Yeah.
Because this was a bit boring doesn't really specify how or why.
Doesn't help. It just gives them another problem.
Yeah, basically, if you have a specific criticism, pair it with a suggestion. It's a useful thing to do. Mix your feedback up as well. So include positive stuff and constructive stuff. You know, when it's... Why are you laughing now?
It's now a...
It's a club
it's
sandwich.
a shit club sandwich.
No, it's a layer cake.
You can't make layer cakes out of artisanal bread though, can you?
It's like a sausage cake, which truly is terrible. Oh, one day, dear listener, we'll tell you about the sausage cake competition.
We need to revive that.
No, we really don't. Which is exactly what it sounds like. A cake. Yeah, we'll do that another time.
My black pudding gatto was inspired.
Okay, right.
We're 28 minutes in.
I know, we need to stop. So yeah, you know what? We're done.
We're done.
I really hope all that was useful. I thought that was going really well, and then you and your shit club sandwich. Dude.
It's fine. Right.
Also, this is the first gin and tonic I've had in
it's amazing, isn't
weeks, and I actually feel drunk. And how much have I drunk of it? A third.
I like it. I like gin. We should do more of this.
Yeah.
Right, come on. What's happening?
I have
Takeaway.
no idea.
What's the takeaway, Vicky?
Ask for feedback from people. Preempt the negative. Preempt the criticism. Take it in the spirit it's intended.
Yes.
And
most people are trying to help.
Yes, they are. And if you approach it from the point of view that you want to improve the thing that you've created, which you should want to do if you are serious about writing your book or painting your picture or making your website or whatever, then, you need to be willing to get feedback. Nothing is created alone.
Cool.
Nothing good is created alone. Receive it as a gift and not as a weapon.
Right. What next?
Coming up next week, we're going to go into lots more detail about how you can get the best kind of constructive feedback specifically on your book, but, really on anything, I suppose.
Your product, I think, is valid.
So yeah, basically, do you need beta readers and how to get the best from them?
Cool.
Yeah.
Product testers.
Doing that next week. So what's going on in Superheroes Land? We are going to Portugal for the 4th International Breaking Bread Mastermind.
Oh my God.
At the end of July. I know, because you and Berto will get to hang out.
Yeah, wear our little short shorts.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, right? If you are wondering whether or not to come along, maybe this will sway you. Joe and Berto are both very handsome men, and they are both going to be wearing tiny short shorts and little t-shirts with pit crew on, and they are going to be waiting on us hand and foot.
Something like that, anyway.
Just saying. So, and we'll be in Portugal, which is beautiful. We'll be right on the beach, almost. So we will be doing all sorts of really cool stuff. And if you listen to last week's podcast, the week before last podcast, you will have heard me and Misty talking all about it.
That's going to be fun. You got any seats left? You got any spaces?
We've got 4 seats left.
4 seats left.
Yep. So it's very small and intimate. Yeah, come along. The feedback from the ones we've done before has been, life-changing, amazing, wonderful, brilliant. And they've been so much fun, haven't they?
So much fun.
Really enjoyed them. So yeah, we're doing that. If you want to come, you can go to breakingbreadmasterminds.com, find out more and sign up.
Nice.
Yeah. If you've listened to every episode of this podcast...
You're insane.
Email me your postal address and I will send you a special little something.
Nice.
Lower your expectations. And yeah, I guess if you like this podcast,
5 stars.
5 stars on Amazon. No. iTunes. And Spotify. We're on Spotify. Can you rate people on Spotify?
I have no idea.
I don't know. We're on Spotify. We're all over the place. You can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, basically. But yeah, rate us, reviewers. I need to stop talking.
Yeah. Too much gin. 5 stars.
Yeah, I'll share it. VickyFraser.com/podcast. We'll be back same time next week. Goodbye.
Cool. Bye.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.